Not muted.
Not muted. Okay. Who knows? But Cameron's gonna get this on. All right, so you're gonna start out with a base for the first one. Start out with a base like this. It's got holes in it. There's an odd number of holes. If you don't think that you're gonna want this at the end of it, don't write your name in marker. Use pencil. If you use a marker to write your name with, because you're for sure gonna keep it because it's the best thing you've ever made, write it in Sharpie. So write my name, there it is backwards. Okay. These we try not to get wet. This is the base. Because this is super cheap wood and it's just glued together right on the edges. Sometimes they'll split. But there is wood in this water. And so let me grab some scissors. I've got it bundled together. And this, what's gonna happen is you're gonna get 5 pieces of reed that are like a specified length. Let me figure out what the length is. So I will help you guys cut these next time. Now the reason I have a stack of buckets is because what's going to happen is I should have enough buckets to set one bucket between like Michael and Kendall and one between Mia and Cam. So like 2 people are sharing a bucket. So we're not all standing super close to each other. So if the bucket's between you guys on the floor, you should be able to socially distance because you're probably both not going to be a bucket at the same time. Okay. So everybody will have reeds and I will give you guys ones. I will try and have your buckets ready to go before we get started. But the truth is that at the end of class, I'm going to need you guys, your help, like at least rolling the buckets to that sink because I have to empty them all. Because if I have before, if you leave the reeds in the water, they'll mold. Nasty. So, especially since you guys aren't here every day. Now, if you wanted to take stuff home, you could. We will have enough time to do this in class. So, and since I don't think the school board's going to throw us into tier 3 anytime soon, we're just going to get started on this. So, for a full virtual. So, I don't think we're headed that direction. So what you're going to end up with is if I put all 5 of my reeds that I need together, and I'm not going to pull all these reeds out because it gets crazy from there, but I'm going to go ahead and make them. So I started at the end of this bucket. Like if I measure from like this side of the bucket, go around the curve to like the middle of the side. It gives me 5 reeds. I'm going to leave the reeds in the water, especially since we're not all going to be around one bucket like last year's kids. And the way this works is you're going to put one reed, you're going to put the reed up through one hole, maybe. So I started the reed up that hole, and then I'm going to put the reed up through the next hole next to it. So it's kind of like that, where see how, and then there's a giant loop on the bottom, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to very carefully pull the 2 together, and I'm going to leave a little bump. I'm not going to try and make that bump flat because there's a very good chance I'll break that reed. Okay, so there'll be a little bump on the bottom. And I'm going to do that 4 times. The 5th time is different because there's an odd number of holes. If we had an even number of holes, our baskets wouldn't work. So I put 2 in 2 holes and I pull up. Now, if you ever want to do this at home, and you're like, but I don't have the supplies, or your parents are like, what do you want for Christmas? They have basket weaving kits on Amazon. They're not that terribly expensive.
What side did you write your name on?
I put mine on the very bottom just because it makes it easier than looking inside of a dark basket at some point, but it's up to you.
Is that how big the bottom of the basket is?
Yes. Okay, I lied. So you do this, you actually need 6 strands. I lied to you. I forgot how many holes there were. It's been a year. So I did this with the 5, but then I have 1 hole left. So this hole's empty. So I'm gonna set this down for a minute. When I set this down, anytime I'm not working on this, it goes hair, like if you think about this like being a head, and these are the hairs, it's gonna go hair down into the bucket to soak the reeds. Because the biggest problem with basket weaving is people not keeping their reeds wet enough. The second big problem is when people get a reed that's weak or they stress their reed out. So in this last hole, I'm going to go up through the bottom, and I'm going to make it the same length as the other ones, okay? And then on the bottom of it, I'm going to weave this reed in and out, just gently. And however I can get those in and out of the bottoms, like that, okay? Yes.
Why do they have to be wet?
Because they'll snap. Yes.
What happens if that snaps?
I'll help you fix it. There's some repairs that can be done. So the other thing is these reeds want to float, so you want to keep them tucked into your bucket. I'm going to grab one of these reeds, and you can really hurt somebody or poke them in the eye. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and hold all the reeds in the bucket kind of down, and I'm going to gently try and untwirl one of them. And they're long, and it's just going to be, and they get really tangled. Like if you're trying to like if you're trying to pull a reed out of a whole bunch of other reeds, or like a pile of spaghetti noodles, like at some point it gets kind of wild. And you don't really want to cut the reeds to like, then you have like a reed stump in here that's like no good. But you're gonna just have to kind of untangle it. I can help you get reeds. I'm gonna try and have like a master size bin. So there'll probably be like 1 or 2 bins that I have up front that have like the reeds soaking in them. And then your guys' bins won't have all the reeds in them, just because you guys don't need so many reeds at once, and you guys need space to put your baskets. There we go, it's out.
Magic.
So I'm gonna push all these reeds back in. This is one of those things where the floor is gonna get wet. You're gonna have to be careful if the floor gets slippery in here. All right, so this is the tricky part, the starting part. And this is an in-out process. And when you screw it up, it's obvious. So maybe not so obvious to you, but obvious to me. So what I do is I stick the end out on one side. I stick it out and I go inside here, outside here. And then I'm going to lift this one here a little bit, and I'm going to slide that down. Then I'm gonna hold it with my fingers. And if you get stuck on this part, I can help you, but is what we're doing is we're just going around and pushing them down. And I'm not taking this long reed and trying to weave it in and out. I am using, and that's why these have to stay wet, is because what I'm doing is I'm gently pulling them back. And if I were pulling this reed back like this and it was dry, it would just snap. It is. So now I have made it around once, and now I have my first X. So it's X, and then I'm going to make an eyeball. And so it's like, as I go around this and I make my other X, so X is going between. Do you see how like there's like an eye shape right there?
Yeah.
And then there's an X, and then there's an I, and then there's an X. And when you do it right, you should have an X every single time. Now, baskets kind of show your personality. If you are somebody who's super relaxed, your basket's probably going to get kind of big, kind of quick, and go woo out. And if you are somebody who likes a lot of control, your basket might get really tight. Try to be a balanced person. Try to make it go up. So I've gone all the way around, and you can see I have an X in between each reed. If I screw this up and I instead of going in and out every time, I skip, suddenly I have 2 reeds that are on top of each other instead of a reed that has a space. Like, does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that's where, and you have to kind of undo it. You can't really leave that be. So I'm going to work faster, and I'll kind of show you how this works. And then I'm going to show you what you can do with beads. You can also, after you're done with it, paint it. If you stain it with watercolor. Something that I find interesting is after I go around a few times, some of these reeds kind of like head out in different directions. I like to kind of pull them upright so they straighten up. So now I have a basket up on top up there. Let me just tell you, I didn't know how to basket weave. It is the ugliest basket ever. I do have a basket I used to have hanging in my window, And I'm probably bring that back out and show it to you guys. It's like a basket that's not finished. So I had a couple kids who last year figured out how to do these and loved it so much that they wanted to make baskets without this bottom part. And if you are interested in making a basket like that, I did learn last year. You can also watch YouTube kind of thing. I'll probably make you watch YouTube anyways on it. But it is a helpful way to do this. But I'm now a few rows up. If it looks like this, where it goes in, out, in, like inside, outside of each one of these wreaths going up, you're doing it correctly. And so you just know it's going all right because it's working. My basket reeds are probably still all right, but as soon as they start to get like a little bit lighter on the top, and that's where they get lighter because it's Wyoming and things get dry at the ends, like you'll need to soak it. Now, I usually say soak your basket like every 3 to 4 minutes for about 30 seconds. And you're gonna find that it's gonna be about, and that's like, and then when you're done, you're like, I'm done today. You just kind of wrap all these up like this
really cool.
kind of thing. And then you would set this on the counter to dry. And then before your next class, or right, I'll try and have your just turned over and your things ready to go, but I might not. So and this is also helps if your basket reads long and I just need to stick it in there for a minute. So I'm gonna just let it sit. Questions so far? Yes.
So you just do that the whole way
Up. So I'm going to try and make a short one for you guys today because I want to show you how to finish them as well. If you're like super on your own about this, like, yay, you. Speaking of that, let me get the tools I'm going to need. I can help you with this part. So the tools that are most helpful, and if you don't have these things, it's not the end of the world. Like a pair of scissors, you definitely need. I have this, it's kind of like a metal pick, but I have used in the past, I have used like a screwdriver, like a small screwdriver, works beautifully kind of thing. And then I find pliers are super helpful. The other things I have some kind of big snips, but those aren't super necessary. Then I have some of these smaller ones, also not super necessary. Scissors, super necessary. I'm gonna hold it and let it drain a little bit because if I start working on it right away, my lap is wet and my floor is wet and you're wet and everybody's wet. So we unwind it again. And then you just keep going. It does probably need to be taller than this to be finished. Just because this would be hard to actually finish. There are a couple different ways, and I have some instructions that I can load into, I can take pictures of and put into Canvas of like the instructions that came with this kit. I have some disagreements about the way that they finish the top of their basket. I don't like how they do theirs, so I'm going to show you how I do mine. You could take your pick. All right, I'm going to add some beads to this. These are just regular pony beads. I'm going to just grab some. My daughter was stringing some around. I'm going to steal some from her. Apparently I'm using yellow. I'll use orange. It's almost Halloween. Here we go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just slide a pony bead on each one of these. And you don't want to do this like do a row, do a pony bead, do a row, do a pony bead. But you could do pony beads like every 3 or 4 rows. And then you could have a whole bunch of pony beads on yours. I don't care. You don't have to have any beads on yours. Again, don't care. Do it how you like it. You can do patterns. Again, remember, there are 11 spokes. So if you need even numbers, probably not going to help. We're going to need 2 more.
What happens if you run out of your big long one?
Oh, these, if you want a really tall basket?
No, like.
Oh, this one? Oh, I'm going to run out, so I'll show you. So when I have the beads on, the thing I want to do is I want to go up over the bead and kind of hold it in place. And then I'm going to just keep going on my normal route. And it's going to be kind of like when I started. And if it is almost the end of class, do not put pony beads on your project because you need to have enough time to go around at least 2 times to lock your beads into place. And so see here, outside, inside. And there will be, so that's the stopping point right there. There'll be like a little space in between. But then I have that, once I put that X in, the bead's stuck. So once the X is on top, the bead is stuck in. Does that make sense? Yeah. But if there's no X because you have miscounted and you're doing 2 at a time instead of every other, it'll be problematic. So when you run out of your long reed, which I'm about to, that's going to be the only time I'm going to tell you to go in the same place you just went. And then you're like, what are you talking about? This is also a good time, like when you're getting close to the end of a reed, it's a really good time to make sure that all of your spokes are standing straight up, because they can start getting wobbly. If you want it to go out, you can just kind of like pull your spokes a little bit and then just start to relax a little bit as you do this. Some people make really wobbly baskets, and I just want to remind you that the reeds are not in charge. You are actually in charge of your basket. You can tell those reeds where to go. Like, well, and sometimes people are like, oh, well, especially with clay, like, I don't know what it's doing. The clay's doing its own thing. So that's at an end point for, I need another reed. So while I dig another reed out, this is definitely going to go in the water. Come on, get in there. And at the bottom, this is going to get kind of wet. It's not the end of the world. We just don't want to like soak it for hours, because when you do that, then I have to go down to Mr. Miller and borrow clamps and glue, and we can fix it. It's just a pain in the butt. Not unlike getting new reeds out. Also, pain in the butt. Oh. The success of your basket is going to be keeping your reeds wet. That's the reeds you're working with and the reeds you're not. All right, so I'm going to pick this up. I'm going to let it drain. This is, let me see if I can move this a little bit more in front of me. This is where it gets really kind of confusing. So I'm going to take a reed piece and I'm going to take it about 6 inches, which is about the length of my hand-ish or a little longer. And I'm going to move my scissors so I don't drop them on my foot. Stop. I'm going to take that length and I'm going to go backwards exactly where I went. So I am not going to make X's. I'm going to put it right on top of where I went, and I'm going to go backwards for about half the basket. And it is okay for that spoke to stick off. Do not cut it. We cut those at the very end after the basket's dry. And then I'm going to hold this piece down, and I'm holding with my fingers. This is when we start and when we transition, you hold your reed down until you get back to it. And I'm gonna start making my X's and O's again. Hey, Mr. Chris.
I'm sorry.
It's all good. What's up?
Roy, Frankie, and Nathan are here today, but we're gonna be gone.
Okay.
And Talon's gone.
Okay. Thanks for letting me know.
Yep, sorry about interrupting.
No, it's all good.
Great to hear.
So once I made it all the way around, now I'm back in that same pattern of eyeballs and X's. And you can see right here, see how those are doubled up on one row? Mm-hmm. That is that is either when you made a mistake, it'll look like that, or when you've switched reeds. Okay. So when it's doubled up, the only time you should see that is when you put a new reed in. Now, if you want a super tall basket, we can go that direction. Hey, Maddie. Hey, Kian.
I like your mask.
Thank you.
Without it?
You're not in crafts.
Well, I couldn't be crafts again.
Some people have.
Really?
I know, it's just weird. They keep showing up.
I would love to do that.
I really want them to make a crafts 2 class, because then you could like, that would be the way that they should do it, because they have like art 2 and art 3. I'd like to have a crafts 2. If like class, I don't know if I could handle like, I mean, I don't know if they'd let me teach that many different kinds of crafts classes, but if there was just like level 2 crafts where you could take what you learned and do it again. All right, I feel like I need a row of beads. It just feels like it just needs to be there. One of you didn't leave one of your phones in here, did you?
No, I got
All right.
mine.
Okay.
Yeah, I got mine too. Why? What does this one look like?
Broken.
Oh, it's probably Leo's.
No, I don't think it was your class.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
How did I say this
Okay. So, careful, because sometimes these reeds will try and pop these beads up on top. And so I'm gonna just keep going. I'm almost gonna be done with this basket.
Wait, are we gonna do this in class or at home?
You're gonna do this in class.
Today?
No, we're gonna start on them next class. That's why I'm showing you the whole process. Is what I would like you to do is, if you have time, watch this one more time, so you have a pretty good idea of what you're doing. Or watch some other YouTubes on basket weaving and just kind of get the concept. And you're more than welcome to surprise me with amazing and awesome techniques you learn, because I'm not like spectacular at this. Like, I'd like to get better basket weaving. It's not completely my thing. But I did find some really cool basket makers. Like, there's a lady in the stamps, like she just had a stamp set made of her at the post office. Her baskets are amazing. I'll try and bring some of those stamps in. All right, so I've got finished that one reed. It needs more water. I need to get one more. I'm gonna do one more reed and call it good, and then I'm gonna show you guys how to finish it off. Maybe. I expect this to take us like a week, maybe a little longer. So again, about 6 inches, going backwards where I just was. So if it was inside, it was inside. If it was outside, it was outside. Going forward. If I get loose, the basket's going to loosen up. Get a little bit bigger. You can come back in if you get too big. You can kind of give them some shapes a little bit. But I'm going to call this, I'm about to call this good. I may put, we'll see, a layer of beads on top, but I don't think so. Okay. I mean, also when you put beads in, you also kind of like, if you're going to keep, I mean, like these wouldn't hold water or anything. They're not like structural like that. But if you were going to put beads in it, you might end up with, I mean, like if you're going to put like pins or something in it, and you had a whole bunch of holes, it might be a problem. All right, so I'm about done. I would say that like, if, I mean, this is probably, you know, I mean, you could do a little bit shorter basket if you're really struggling and you're just like, I hate basket weaving. It's not for me. I tried it. You know, you could do one a little bit smaller, but this is probably the smallest I want people finishing baskets at. I'd like to get you guys to get about 4 inches, 3 to 4 inches high. Some people make ginormous baskets. Like you can make them taller than this. We just put extra spokes down. And if we get to that point and you're like, oh, I want a giant basket, we totally got you. But let's see here. There we go. All right, so I feel like I'm done. Whatever, Miss Potato Bay. I'm so over it. What's going to happen is this little tool here, and I have a couple of these, is what happens is this goes down the hole next to the reed and scoots in the metal and comes down. And it's what you're going to do is you're going to try and make a space and push it in. And then that's what you're going to do is you're going to bend this reed and you're going to put it in that space. This is where the pliers come in handy. I get it as far as I can, and then I pull it out, and I leave it out like that until it's dry. That makes sense?
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna go down next to each spoke, poke it down. And I can do that all the way around. This is the part where, again, you need to make sure your reeds are nice and wet. Get it as far as you can, grab it with pliers, pull it down. And you just go this way all the way around, and then you have the next class. When they're dry, we snip the edges, we snip all these off, and call it good. Now, if you're like, I really love the idea of a loop up here, you could leave that loop. You don't have to pull the pliers down. This makes your basket a little bit like more sturdy to have these pulled down, but it's not a necessity. You could also put a bead right there on top of each one if you wanted to. A little bit more pain than I want to do right now, but if I guess I could do one and show it to you guys. I can put like one bead up here on that top and then bend that down. And the beetles just sit up there like that. So, questions, concerns, anticipated issues? Next class, I will have your bases and reeds ready to go, your first 6 reeds and your bases, and a couple reeds in each bucket. So you guys will be ready to go right from the get-go. All right, if you have anything out, you probably should pack it because there's the bell. Have a great day.
Oh, I had to take some videos, they're off in the middle of them.